Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Might Need This Later, a Gamers Podcast. This is episode 3, and as always, I'm joined by um, some would say he's my best friend. I think he's my worst enemy. We have Jesse, and also the best looking guy in gaming, my man Connor.
Hello,
I
hello.
love I love how I'm at, by the way, you're Joe. Just figured
Oh,
some
yeah,
people.
and by the way, I'm Joe, but nobody needs to know that.
I love
I'm not
I love
important.
how every episode I'm just getting just demolished over here. What's going on with
we don't
this?
we don't know if you're getting demolished or if it's a compliment. That's always a
Yeah, I don't know.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, some people think you're my best friend. I think you're my biggest rival and worst enemy, but whatever. It's the
Okay,
same thing,
Joe.
really.
Here's the way to put it. When you play Pokemon games, who do you put as your rival?
Obviously it's Jess every single time. It's
All right, all right.
unless we're doing Cinco Bingo speed runs, and then he's either whatever the default name is or A if
Hey,
I
go with that.
or if I mistype. So we got another awesome show prepared for you guys today. We're gonna go into some more thought provoking questions on what are some of our favorite song and soundtracks from video games are. But before we get to that, we're going to go into our bonus question, which is actually going to be provided by me today.
Ooh.
So, what I want to know from the two of you is what is the longest that you've ever sat playing video games without getting up? I mean, aside from going to the bathroom and grabbing a snack, whatever, but straight gaming sessions, what's the longest? Jess, you go first.
So, way back in the day, Joe and I used to play a text-based game. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a game that's all words. You walk into a room, it describes it to you. You walk in a room, there are three trees. There's a mushroom on the ground, blah, 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 blah. Obvious exits are north, south, west, east, and up. And the game would reboot every 24 hours. So essentially it would clear it so, the instances would repopulate and things like that. And we used to do this thing called a boot to boot, which is we start playing when the game rebooted, which for us was 5 o'clock in the morning because the game was based out of Finland. And it would, then it would reboot again the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning again. And so we would do a boot to boot. Now the problem was one night we started a little late. We started at I can't remember how long. I can't remember what time, but we started late, and so we just kept going, and we made it to about 30 to 31 hours before one of my tanks fell asleep at the keyboard. So 30 to 31 hours was the longest that I have ever gamed. I actually don't know how, like, I've seen people do like charity streams that are like 40, 50 hours or something. I don't actually know how people do that.
Yeah, I can't do that. My longest time gaming was also a long time ago, way back in the day when I think I was probably still in high school. I was playing 26 hours of the original Gears of War. It was so much fun. I had just learned how to do it was like a glitch where you could roadie run, which is, I know neither of y'all really played Gears, but in that game, if you wanted to sprint, you had to crouch, and you would like crouch down and sprint, but you would have like a loss of like you couldn't like go left or right really. You could just kind of run in a straight line. If you rowdy run, you would like bounce off the wall and you could then sprint but still have complete control. And once I figured out how to do that, me and my friend just slayed for 26 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Just being cheating, awful people.
So for my longest gaming session, it would probably be the same as Jesse's. I was at that boot to boot. I don't remember, but we did plenty of boot to boots. But I'm not going to use that one. So aside from doing boot to boots with Batmud, my longest gaming session was 26, 27 hours playing what else? World of Warcraft.
I was
Hmm.
about to say, this has got to be wild.
Yeah. So this it happened on two separate occasions. At the release of Wrath of the Lich King, um, they had just introduced this new achievement system that you could be the server first or realm first
Hmm.
if you got to the max level for your either particular race or class. So obviously, me being the competitive fool that I am, I was like, I need to be the first level 70 on my server. Like, need to be there. So I stayed up however many hours it took racing to level 70, 60 to 70. And I didn't get first level 70 on my server, but I did get third level 70, first dwarf.
Ooh.
First dwarf. So I did manage to get one.
Did you come up a little short?
I did come up a little short.
Got him.
Just a little short.
I'm taking that one.
Got
boys.
him.
Yeah, it was a horrible joke, but I'm gonna let you have it. We'll let it slide. I came up just a tad short.
So
But the funny part about this whole story is that one of my buddies in the guild, he goes by the name Marudus, I'll give him a shout out. Him and I were leveling at the same time together, like quest for quest, mob for mob. We were just like hand in hand leveling at the same time. We both wanted to hit max level at the same time, and one of us get server first or whatever. So he decides, hey, let's take a quick break here, grab something to eat, take a shower, get refreshed, because we'd been at it for I don't even know how many hours at this point. So an hour goes by, and I'm sitting around waiting for him. Nothing. Try calling his phone. Nothing. Try texting him. Nothing. Try every avenue of messaging I can get. Nothing. So I'm like, all right, I guess I just have to go on without him. And so I finished up my leveling. I hit level 70, and then he wakes up a couple hours later. He's like, "You son of a!" And he's like screaming at me because he's so mad because he thought that I didn't try to wake him up. And I'm just like sitting there just yelling, like, I tried so many different ways to wake your dumb self up. Like, this is not my fault. So he ended up missing out on level 70 everything. Meanwhile, he could have easily had Paladin or Human. So that's my longest gaming story.
Can I give a bonus story?
Sure, go for it.
I have a bonus story because it involves Joe and I.
Oh yeah.
It's just not even like we were up for a long time and gaming for a long time, but many moons ago, we were playing the game Baldur's Gate.
Oh goodness gracious, yeah.
And we had been awake for a long time. We were doing other things, but this is back to the same vein of like doing something for so long, and we were getting super delirious. I mean, absolutely like so tired. And you get to that point when you're so tired that you're just laughing at every single thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Somebody just
getting slap
sick of
happy.
Yeah, we were so
we were laughing at it.
And we're towards the end of the game, and like I didn't realize that you could just unequip everything. So like I unequip everything, and Joe just looks over. He goes, "What the heck? Your guy has no clothes on." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you don't need pants for the victory dance." And it was over. It was me and Joe just dying laughing at 3:30 in the morning because I said you don't need pants for the victory dance. Just looking at my guy with no clothes on. That was a hilarious moment and a very good memory that him and I both never forget.
I will never forget that day. Oh my god, it was so good. Like in case you listeners haven't figured it out, Jesse and I have been friends for more years than I care to say on the air. Yeah, care to admit to. But,
I met him last week.
Yeah, we met last week.
At the first episode, at the second episode.
Yeah. So there's that. So you're gonna get a lot of these goes way back when stories from us.
That's what happens.
Any other final thoughts before I move into the main part of our segment?
No, nothing from me.
All right. So we're going to move into our main question of the day, and that is, what are your favorite songs and or soundtracks from video games? And the random order generator has determined that the order will be as follows. With the first pick, Mr. Connor.
I lost.
Yeah, you lost the first pick this time. I will have the second pick, and Jesse's going to round it out with the wheel.
I like a good wheel.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do. I like being the wheel too. I wish I was the wheel. All right, so Connor, start us off. Favorite video game song and or soundtrack?
It's exciting going first because then I know no one's gonna steal mine. I can just throw it out there.
You get one pick, but there are 4 picks until your next pick.
That is very true. So my first pick, I've used this example before, but it was just such a staple childhood, and I feel like I could hear it from a mile away. Is the Halo soundtrack, like the awing, like I feel like I could hear that from a mile away when you get into like the epic gunfights when the drums kick in, like, it still gets me hyped.
Yeah, that main theme, like it's still incredibly popular, like even today, because even recently as last year, Jesse and I were doing one of our game shows at the local convention at Phoenix Fan Fusion.
Mhm.
And when the Halo theme came on for one of our questions, literally the entire room started singing along with "Oh," like it was awesome. Like
That's
so, it's
amazing.
still very very popular. So that's a great pick.
You
Yeah,
know you've created a good song or soundtrack when an entire room of 200 or 300 people can sing along with it together.
literally.
All right. For my first pick, normally I probably wouldn't have even put this in my list, but I was kind of like going through my list before we started the show, and I was like listening to all of them, and like, and then after the fact, I was I was folding some laundry and putting it away and getting ready for the show, and like this one track just kept playing in my head over and over, and I'm like humming it and like and basically singing it in the bedroom. And my wife's looking at me like I'm crazy. Like she's like, "What are you singing over and over?" Like she's like, "You're driving me crazy." And it was the boss theme for Bravely Default. I don't know if you guys have ever played Bravely Default. I like to call it the best Final Fantasy game that isn't called Final Fantasy.
Mm.
But even so, like I still think it's the best Final Fantasy game that I've played anyway. And I've played a lot of Final Fantasy games. So these particular boss fights are they call them in the game asterisks, which is just a fancy way of saying kill this boss and you get a new class. So every time that you're fighting to get a new class, so that you can change jobs, you hear this soundtrack, and it's just like it just like was like a worm in my brain, just like playing over and over and over again for like the last hour. So that's gonna be first on my list. The boss theme for Bravely Default.
Okay, I'm gonna wheel it up, boys. So
Reel it out.
I'm gonna cop out with my first pick. I
Of
can't.
course you are.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. I'm gonna go with Parappa the Rappa.
Hey.
Hey.
Parappa the Rappa. If anybody's not played it, I feel like it was essentially DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, before DDR became a thing. Because well, you played it with your hands.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a rhythm game with your fingers.
Rhythm-based game with your fingers. But Parappa the Rappa, like I mean, I anybody that's played it can remember all. You can remember kick, punch. It's all
On the mark.
everybody can remember that. You can remember this. I think what's the second stage where you're learning how to drive. The third stage where you got to pee. Like you remember all the
No,
songs.
the third stage was in the. Oh no, you're right. It was
Oh,
in the
in
rain
the
or in the
rain
sun.
or in the yeah. Like
Yeah.
you were. All of those songs were so good. It's a minor cop out because well, the whole song is essentially the
The whole
music.
game's a soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a minor cop out, but still.
But
Still
still,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
still good.
Okay, the second one I'm gonna go with. Joe is already cringing. I don't care. I'm gonna go with "Eyes on Me" from Final Fantasy VIII. I
It's a good
am.
song.
It is a really good song. I think Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorites. One of my favorite Final Fantasies, and I think it's mostly because of the soundtrack. But in particular, "Eyes on Me" is one of those songs I hear. Such a beautiful song. It's like it's and you remember the moment in the game, and it's just such a powerful moment in the game when they're playing piano, and it's funny because it's like I think it was PlayStation 1, right? PlayStation 2. My brain can't even come up with
It's one.
it's one.
Yep.
And just the ability for a game that's not that graphically intensive to drag you in like that using songs is just I don't know, it's just unbelievable to me. And I think that's why I love that game so much. Not specifically that song, but that song is I remember the most.
You know my thoughts on Final Fantasy, and I'm not gonna go over it here, but you know what I feel about that game.
Joe loves it. He owns 5 copies.
I think the game is garbage, but
Just
it's your favorite game, so that's all I'll say. It's garbage.
wow.
Go ahead, just your next
Don't
pick.
hold any punches at all,
Yeah.
I guess.
Don't pull your punches, man.
Well, then you go because it's your pick.
Oh yeah, it is my pick. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got him.
Who would have known that this order would have gotten to me?
I think by like the 5th, 6th, maybe 20th time, we'll just get this right.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go with my comedy pick here
Ooh.
because I think it's a great theme and one of my favorites. That it's from an older game from the SNES. It is the Moon theme from DuckTales.
Oh yeah.
So
DuckTales.
yeah, from DuckTales, not the SNES, sorry, the NES game DuckTales, where you just play as Scrooge McDuck, just going around collecting diamonds and trying to save the world or save the moon or whatever you're doing, but the moon theme is so great. It has to make my list.
I like it.
All
I
right,
like it.
Connor, you're up.
So my next, so I do two or one, two,
You do two here.
two here. Got it. So my first
Yep.
one is gonna be pretty much any of the songs that you play on the flute in Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. So you know you got Song of Storms, you got the Lost Woods song. Like there's so many just I feel like memorable songs that I just remember playing as a child, and they just have stuck with me. And they you can't like no matter how old I get, I can't help but like bob my head along like that. Like I don't know any of those flute songs from Legend of Zelda.
Song Storms, all
All of
great.
they're all great. Like they all have their purpose, and you know what I
Yep.
mean. Like that you use each of them throughout, and they all have like you kind of get attached to each one as you need it. It's fantastic.
The whole soundtrack from that game is great, so I could definitely get behind that.
I think Zelda in general is just so iconic, and I mean, it's one of those like you just hear that and you hear the theme and you're like, oh my god, it's Zelda.
Right? You can't help but get hyped.
Yep, I
Um,
agree with that. But don't ever try to like figure out the chronological order of the games. Like that'll just give you nightmares.
literally. Amen to that. In my next one, I'm gonna have to say like Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yeah.
Like I just remember driving around and like there were so many just iconic songs like that they would play on the radio that were just so great. They had Run DMC, like there was just so different mini genres and they were all iconic.
I
My
feel less
favorite,
bad about copping out with Parappa the Rapper now.
yeah,
Boom.
my favorite part of the Vice City soundtrack is when you're turning the radio and it's just the like the call-in shows where you just hear like
Yeah.
people calling in complaining about America. So the funny thing about that is that Rockstar actually had like a before the game was released, they actually had a call-in line where people could do that, call in and complain about America, and they took the best ones of the user community submitted ones and put them into the game.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so fantastic.
yeah, it's great. So yeah, Vice City is definitely fantastic soundtrack. Awesome pick, Connor.
Yee.
All right, so for my third one, I'm gonna go. I feel like I'm just like sitting in RPG land, but I can't help it. Like the RPG
I love
soundtracks are so
RPG
good.
Land.
Yeah.
RPG Land is the best
So
thing to be.
going back to RPG land, we're gonna go with the remix. We're gonna go with a remix here that Final Fantasy XIV did for Matoya's Cave. So in the original, very first NES Final Fantasy game, um, part of the storyline involves you going to Matoya's cave because she's lost her crystal. She's lost her crystal and she wants it back. And in return, you get the herb to go to the king. You know, this whole like chain quest of events. But Matoya's cave is one of the areas in the game that has like really different and great music, even though it's in 8-bit, like that set music. And then in Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO game, they remixed that and kind of slowed it down and made it like this really beautiful piece of music that you just kind of like, especially for older gamers like me that can like really resonate and remember the first Final Fantasy and how it kind of just like throws back to that. It was like a really nostalgic feeling. So it was fun and it's a great track. Jesse, you're up.
All right, I'm gonna final a wheel here then.
Yep.
I have a million choices I want to make right now.
I know, me too.
I think the thing for me is music is just so important when it comes to gaming that it really is hard to narrow down. But I'm gonna do my best. So my next pick, I'm gonna go with Mega Man 2. I think Mega Man in general, they did a very good job with so much of the music. Every single game, because I think it's because each boss had its own theme song. You know, I mean, if you've played any of the Mega Mans, you could be like, oh, remember blah blah blah. Like, yeah, this was and you're like, oh, I remember that guy, you know. And then so when you get past it, you get to the final stages. Like, I mean, Dr. Wily theme. That was two, right, Joe?
Yeah, if you pretty much look at any like commonly made list on the internet of best soundtracks or best songs. Like the Wily theme, like the Wily 2 theme
Yeah,
is
Wily 2 theme
always
is
up
so
there.
good.
Like it's so
Yeah.
good. Like I definitely feel you on that.
I'm trying to remember now because some of them bleed together. Obviously, there was 78 Mega Mans, but
Mhm.
what's is the beginning of Mega Man 2? It's like where he's like standing on the
Yeah, when he's on the roof of the
yeah.
building. Yeah, that's 2.
But yeah, that was Mega Man. Oh, yes, Mega Man 2, very good soundtrack. And then I'm
I
gonna
mean, we could just Mega Man in a shell
yeah,
and like
yeah, I completely agree because Mega Man
yeah.
X also was very, very good. It was hard like sitting down and think, all right, which one am I gonna choose? It's just it
Yeah,
made a difference
it's impossible to narrow Mega Man. You could do your own like an entire episode just on
just
favorite
on
Mega Man tracks for sure.
yeah. And then I'm gonna round it out. Like I said, there's so many I wanted to talk about, but I'm just gonna go with one of my favorite games of all time, and it is Earthbound. Earthbound, I remember a lot because of the music. One of the big things in the game is you have to collect these different tunes on a sound stone, and they go to 8 different places and put it on a sound. Put each place is a different section to a song that goes in the sound stone that you have to complete.
Hmm.
And every single, as well as that, every single town you go into has its own little like different unique sounds. And like I could close my eyes right now. You play a sound. You play from like two, like Onet or Tucson or Threed or whatever. Each one of the towns. I know exactly what town it is, and I know what parts and games, and like even just that in Earthbound. If anybody has not played it, there's a band that keeps getting themselves into trouble because they're solid. The Runaway Five, although there's only 4 of them.
No, there's 6 of them. There's
6
6 of
of them.
them.
See, this is what I'm saying. But they're a band and they do like different they keep getting themselves into bad situations, like bad contracts and whatever, and you have to like sit through 2 different shows that they play. But they like, and it's funny because this game isn't Super Nintendo, but they had the ability to still create memorable songs.
Yeah, the Onet theme, like the first town that you come to, is always gonna just memorable to me. Like you just walk into it for the first time and you just hear that cheerful like SNES tune, and then all of a sudden
Bum, 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 bum,
then you're
bum,
getting
bum,
beat
bum,
down
bum,
by
bum.
thugs.
Yeah, the Shark Gang.
Yeah,
And
the sharks.
and it's funny because you also have like everything in the whole soundtrack, like the stupid camera guy who he's just there to annoy you, and I can remember the sounds that comes when he makes, like when he flies out of the sky to take a picture of you.
And yells Fuzzy Pickles.
Fuzzy
Fuzzy
Pickle.
Pickles.
So yeah, I love the Earthbound soundtrack. A good choice, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, for my last pick,
Barkley shut up and jam.
I mean that is a good one, but this is gonna sound like a cop-out because I talked about Chrono Trigger in the last episode, but I have to go with it's literally my favorite track, like in the history of gaming that I can remember. But I think that most of the internet would agree with me that Corridors of Time from Chrono Trigger is probably just one of the best tracks that have ever been in a game, even though it was on the SNES like 16-bit cartridge or whatever the SNES was. I think it was 16-bit. Um, like the whole game revolves around time travel, going back in time, forward in time, affecting time in different ways, and you just kind of get thrown out into the ice age at this one point, and you fly up this teleporter that's been put on the ground to this floating city in the sky, basically floating kingdom in the sky, and it's just so technologically advanced for where it is in the time period, and it just has like this music to go along with it to show you like that it's just this enlightened society, and like it's just really like it's an entrancing track. Like you put it on and like you just kind of stop playing the game for a minute because you're just so engrossed in the music. Like it's really that great. So yeah, that's my spiel.
That's my spiel. So for mine, there's so many. Probably one of the more recent ones that just because I spent a lot of time just watching like the shorts and stuff is it's more or less just the sound, the horns from Overwatch, like the trumpets. When you watch like a highlight, like when you play the game, it'll automatically record like your highlights, and at the end of your highlights, it always has like the trumpets play as the Overwatch logo comes up, and it just make I don't know. There was just something the way the way that it hits my heart, you just feel like so like I don't know, empowered. Like yeah, I feel like a hero. A hero, that's the word I'm looking for. It makes you feel like a hero.
I remember the very first time that I ever watched back one of my own highlights when I played Overwatch. Like it wasn't even a good highlight. Like it was just like I was like, oh, they keep highlights. Let me go check this out. And like the music just starts playing. And it's like you get so hyped in the beginning, like oh, it's about me. Like let me see what I
Yeah,
did. And then you like kind of watch it back and then you cringe a little bit because you played terribly. But then you get the music at the end where like the crescendo happens and then it kind of just like the horns like fade in and out and
exactly.
it's very like powerful.
It is. It's
Yeah. So I can totally see that.
yeah, that would have to be my. And I just spent so much time on Overwatch. That's where I spent a lot of my recent gaming time, and I love it.
All right, so just to round out our picks, let's go over our list one more time. So Connor has the Halo soundtrack, the Ocarina of Time Ocarina songs, the soundtrack from GTA Vice City, and the horns at the end of Overwatch highlights. My list is Bravely Default Boss theme, the DuckTales Moon theme, Matoya's Cave from Final Fantasy XIV, and the Corridors of Time track from Chrono Trigger. Jesse's got Parappa the Rapper, Eyes on Me from Final Fantasy VIII, uh, Mega Man 2 soundtrack, and the soundtrack from Earthbound. So those are our lists. You guys want to give any honorable mentions before we move on?
I did want to talk about something, and I feel like we all can relate to it. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I first played Skyrim, and Skyrim was just anybody who played Skyrim at launch, like you just walk out into the world,
Hmm.
and you're like, what
Hey,
the
you're awake.
yeah, but like once you get past and you're going towards Riften and after the cave, you like
Yep.
walk out into this open world and just the sound. It's like the visuals are amazing. The game was for when it came out, the game was beautiful.
Hmm.
The
I mean, it's
sound,
still great. Even if you just like put a couple mods on it, it's like still great.
yeah, but just the basic sounds of the game were so memorable and just like it added to like the ambiance and like how just involved you were in playing that game. And I think that helps so much. We obviously always remember like the Dragonborn and all the like the songs that came with it and all the
Mhm.
different things, but it's just remembering the first time you step out of the cave and it's just like there's the ambient sounds
Yep,
of the
exactly what I was gonna say. The
world.
ambient sounds.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was just like unbelievable to me. It was where gaming kind of transcended and it just kind of amazed me just to step back for a second and go, wow, this is amazing. Like this is beyond even what I thought the game was going to be and how beautiful it was in every single aspect.
And then you climbed a horse. I mean, climbed a mountain with your horse.
And then yeah,
So
climbed a mountain.
Skyrim was literally on my list for that exact reason. Like that's that would absolutely be one of my honorable mentions as well. And another thing too is I think that the like I don't know, a lot of the some of the game like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, like those older games, I feel like they had such a memorable soundtrack because they had to make up for the lack of technology to have like visually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like they had to spend a lot of time making these memorable songs to connect with you on because it wasn't super HD graphics that pulled you in, you know.
I think songs in general, I don't know, off topic, but it's fine. A show like Scrubs, for instance, one of my favorite shows ever. It, I think it was just such a good show because of the songs and the places that they put them in,
Mhm.
and it really, like it. You can remember the moments that things happen based on the songs or based on the sounds or whatever it might be. You just remember those things, and it really adds to the experience. And like you said, it makes up for the deficiencies that might have elsewhere. Where Skyrim didn't
Mhm.
really have any deficiencies. Skyrim was
Correct.
an unbelievable game in every way, in my opinion. I thought Skyrim was one of the best games ever made, especially for its time period. And I think
Absolutely.
the sounds, the everything that happened in that game, like, or sorry, the sounds really made that game what it was. Because if you played that game on mute, I don't think it would be as like as like engaging as like, wow, this is amazing. Like it's still the game looks beautiful, but it's just the ambience of things is unbelievable to me.
Agreed.
Some more, man. But all right, that is all the time that we have for this week's episode. Um, just as a final wrap up, Jess, you want to give us a preview as to what we're looking at for next week?
Yes, sir. So next week we're gonna do a fun one. We're gonna do favorite video game weapon.
Favorite
Mm,
video game? Oh man, this is a list that I could probably do like 100 on easily.
literally.
My
Yeah.
number one is gonna be the long block in Tetris. Nobody take that from me.
So that's all we have for today. If you guys have any other suggestions, if you guys can think of any other great soundtracks that we missed or that you want to mention, make sure to just contact us on our email, which is imightneedthisLaterAGP@gmail.com, or on our Instagram or Facebook. Same thing, imightneedthisLaterAGP. And if you have any ideas for other questions that we could ask or anything that you want us to talk about, be sure to mention that as well. Like we always welcome all the feedback and suggestions. Like we do this for you guys. Like this is not for us. Like we don't get any joy out of doing this. I'm just kidding. We get tons of
I
joy.
was about to say I love doing this.
We get tons of joy out of it. This is great. I lied. We get tons of joy out of doing this, but we do it for you guys. So if you have any suggestions, just let us know, and we'll try to get them in the show if they're good suggestions. So for Jesse and Connor, we'll see you guys next week. See you later.
Keep gaming, everybody.
Keep gaming, later, guys.